Peter's it's silly o'clock in Australia. We don't even say how. And John.
Evening.
So we're going to just say a few words about our own journey with money. Um, so my experience has been that money kind of has always been with me, actually. Not in great abundance, but enough. I've always got by. And my experience when I left, I divorced, or I split up with my husband, and then I found myself kind of a bit at sea. I'd managed to I'd looked after our children for 20 years, um, and then he went and retired, and I was like, oh no. Now, now I've got to go and make some money. And I did quite a lot of training in things like Reiki and massage and lots of, the healing arts. And I was really struck by how difficult I found it to charge for those healing art things. And I kind of thought, what is going on here? And it became obvious to me that there was a real issue for the spiritual world. There seemed to be this sort of mismatch and then I got myself a little job in a corporate, and I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and I kept hearing all this stuff about the word money, and I was noticing I had these little sort of contractions around money, and then I was listening to something called a Conscious Business Summit last March, I think it was, and Sarah McCrum's voice came out of the ether. It was a British voice in amongst lots of North American voices, and she just talked about this book that she'd written. And the book we will hear something from. I'm going to read the first chapter of it later. It's called Love Money, Money Loves You. And it was a transmission, really, that Sarah wrote. Her story you can find on her website. She tells it better herself, or Peter might say more. But she basically started to write. She was asked a question, what would money say to you? And she sat down, and it was like her pen wrote itself. And after several months, she realized that the energy of money had written through her. And I just got interested. And then I have another book here, which I'm going to read something from later, which is called Money is Love. And in here, she talks about consciousness. And when we reach a point where more people view money as love, suddenly money will be love. Because it's the consciousness, it's what we. So the stock market is, my favorite example is the stock market actually trades on nothing material, but it trades on emotions. And so when there's enough emotion behind the concept that money is love, so it will be. So that's my little journey. And now Peter and John are both going to say a few words about their own experiences.
John, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, it's been an interesting time. I mean, until about a few years ago, I was running quite a successful company, and yet I found that the more money I made, the more stress I had, the more people I was employing, the more difficult things got, to the point where I kind of destroyed myself, really. And I had to take some time out. I got into other issues, and I would say, at that point, I'd really lost all hope that I was ever going to rejoin society or do anything productive ever again. It felt that everything I did was going to fail, and yet, really, around the beginning of lockdown, I joined with Emma Sarah's Be the Solution and From Worry to Love sessions, and I've always been interested in the law of attraction, and helped start this group with Emma, but I'd never fully taken responsibility for seeing how what I think can shape what happens around me. And as soon as I started listening to Sarah's work, and also at the same time we were doing some other abundance work, as soon as I started to really think positively, I've seen just in the last 4 months, everything has started to work really well for me. I'm back in work, I'm paying debts, I'm developing another business. I'm very positive about it, and I'm just hoping to start this Thank You Money course myself, and I'm really finding that it's working so far. So yeah, I'd say that would be a good summary of where I am at the moment.
Thanks, Mark. I actually had some similar things with both of you. So my journey of money, my family of origin, their view of money, my grandmother and aunties and uncles, their view of money was that it was filthy lucre, dirty, you shouldn't like it, you shouldn't talk about it, and generally a view of struggle and shame, actually. But I came out of the womb as an entrepreneur. So by the time I was 13, actually perhaps in reaction to what I thought was extreme poverty at the time, I wanted to be rich. So they're probably connected. So by the time I was 13, knowing that I was probably not going to inherit anything and that my pocket money was perhaps not enough going to give me what I wanted in the world at the time, I started a business, and that was mowing lawns and odd jobs. By the time I was in grade 11, I was actually earning more money than the headmaster. So I had 16 guys working for me, and I'm going to school in the daytime. And I wanted to leave school, and my mother, with the cooperation of the headmaster, bribed or blackmailed or whatever, I got me to the point where I gave my word that I'd stay at school, and I ended up sabotaging the business because I just wanted to go and do things in the world. And that was actually a pattern until I was 30. I'd start something entrepreneurial, and I'd be earning bucket loads of money and having fun. And my mother would say something to the effect of, "It's all good fun, Peter, but when are you going to get a job?" Because my mother's experience of life, she was a child of the Depression who had to leave school to help the family and blah, blah, blah. And security to her was the most important thing. And security came from having a good job. Whereas security to me was the ability to create something, and if it fell apart, create something else. So we had different views, and it took me until I was 30 to actually break that cord of emotion with my mother and say, "You know what, Mum, I'm following my path, and if you like it, that's great, and if you don't, too bad."
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to break us out. There are 11 of us, so I'm just going to probably make 4 rooms. So there'll be three threes and a 2. So we'll find out who we end up with. Okay. Well, that's a fun thing. I've never done that before. How was the breakout room experience for everybody? Here they are. Here they all are. They're just in transition, I guess. Well, that was a learning experience.
That was fun.
Cool.
It was clever.
So does anybody want to share anything that they learned about themselves or about other people or about their relationship with money, or were you quite happy to just do it? Have you all just give me an indication on the participants thing, or put a hand up? Or... Everybody quite happy with it.
Well, one of the things that was a theme in our group was the relationship with ourselves, with our experience and our money. And and that it's a inner game, and when we get ourselves in harmony, the world kind of falls into harmony. When we allow ourselves to be stressed, the world becomes stressed. And that was kind of a theme that was there in all of our journeys with money. And Johnny said something really interesting. When we actually allow ourselves to experience the universe as abundant, I might have paraphrased that slightly, but it was pretty close. And I could actually feel the experience of Johnny when he had that recognition. It was like he went from being not able to breathe with this topic of money to being, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit about the value of, it's one of the wonderful things that's come from following the Sarah's course so far, is having that time to relax into it, not being in that something must be done mentality, this kind of state of panic. That quite a lot of the time I end up doing work for nothing that I don't value. And you know, as I've I spent most of the last 2 years seeing myself as having no value and being quite afraid to charge for that work. And you know, just in a few months, a lot has changed, which I'm really happy about. You know, that's and yeah, just releasing that idea that somehow there are limits on what our expectations can be. And it's remarkable how well that's worked. I mean, it really is quite remarkable that we're following quite a lot of within the sort of Heart's Law of Attraction group, you know, where we are following this idea that we can generate the realities that we want to have through our own positive way of doing it. But that's not easy to be consistent around. And so, you know, with the support and with the program, it's been much simpler. And it's also been wonderful to have a group to support and, you know, to support us. You know, that's been really key for me.
Yeah, I think support is, because we're all, you know, we actually come from one, and we split off these little soul pieces, split off into all these little individuals, and then we're lost. So there's this real kind of pull of we want to be, you know, we actually know that we come from a one, and yet we're sort of on here. And I think there's been a lot of, over the last few decades, probably a lot of separation, and people expected to just kind of get on with it and be on the, you know, stand on your own 2 feet and be big and strong. And actually, community, and John and I are very much about connection and community and the support that we can give each other. That's, yeah, you can't pick it up, and you can't, but it's there. And it can be a very lonely world sometimes when we're trying to do it all by ourselves.
Anyone else with a story to share?
I forget your name. I'm so sorry.
Selena.
Selena.
Yes, hello. Yeah.
Do you want to share anything of your experiences?
Yeah, it's a very interesting and at times difficult subject to consider. You know, I've just been through a bit of a roller coaster of emotions around it. Yeah.
Oh wow. Sorry.
No, it's good to sort of have something that's come up so I can actually notice it about myself. And I suppose my relationship with money is that I kind of just end up just breaking even so that I feel a little bit free. I kind of am considering some sort of self-development in the sense that I'd really want to improve my perception of money, in you know, learn about my own values so that I can look at what they are and choose if they still serve me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if that could be part of a world that has supporting positive views and changes in that sort of way that seems to be a possibility, that would be a great future, I think, for people, and a great hope. Money, you know, it's a very, I did hear an expression a long time ago that it is an emotive subject, and I just really don't understand so much about money anyway, and how it's become so embedded in everything. Yeah,
The word itself,
it's a bit of a mystery.
it
Sorry?
is. The word itself, I don't know if you watched my our Vimeo recordings, but I had I started to try to share this work about a year ago, and I sent out an email to all my contacts about some of Sarah's work, and it had the word money in it, and I had three reactions. One was nobody responded. The second one,
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh my God, Emma, your email's been hacked." And the third one, which is my favourite story, is from a lady who was one of my Kundalini yoga trainees.
Yeah.
And she said, when she was a little girl, her dad told her that money didn't grow on trees. And she said, I knew better. So I planted a, little 6-year-old girl. She went and planted a money tree in her back garden. And this woman, her husband, designed the interior of the Gherkin in London. She lives in a
Oh.
massive house. She doesn't have a contraction around money, but lots of people do. Even just the word, those 5 little letters put together, can make people really physically recoil. And that's what I love about Sarah's work, and other. It's not just Sarah. There's Brenda Wilder. There's a lot about this that it's just an energy. It's simply the energy of exchange. And when we give something, particularly if we give some healing or a service, we're left with an energetic vacuum, and that needs to be filled. We're just exchanging. And I mean, one of the things John would love to get to is like a cryptocurrency where people are actually paying. So you go into Sainsbury's and the coffee costs £4. Well, to some people that's a lot, whereas to another person it's not the same. So where we got into a place where people are actually paying in a way that was relative to their own income,
Yeah.
we're a ways off that. But if you actually exchange, what does that cost me in terms of, you know what I
How
mean?
do you value it?
Yeah. Is that a fair way to sum it up, John? I'm sort of...
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things as well with it's become such a crude measure, and this kind of what they call fungibility, the ability to transform, like, to say 5,000 Sainsbury's shops is worth a small flat, or something like that. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and we count money as like stacks of little bits of metal, and it doesn't even equate to little stacks of metal anymore. So there's an absurdity in the whole thing, and we've got this incredible opportunities with the connection possibilities from apps and websites and conversations, and we can talk with people all around the world. And we're hoping, Emma and I, kind of separately to this, is to really develop tools that help people collaborate together and get experiences and really in a kind of frictionless way. And yeah, there's some like, I guess that the really interesting thing around crypto that Emma's talking about is we can change the relationship with how we store our data. We don't need to kind of have this idea of you sign up with Facebook and you agree to some meaningless 50-page set of agreements, or Google or Microsoft or whoever. We can become responsible for our own data. We can hold it, we can hold it securely, and we can choose who and how we share it with. We really want to expand these groups and starting from here. But what we felt most strongly was that before we can really take this further, you know, we've all got to fundamentally start by transforming our relationship with money, and that's why our first step here is to try and get people to get these tools with Sarah, with us, to relax around money, to be open to the idea of just simply. There's one of my favorite stories actually is a Jim Carrey story, and there's a YouTube video of him talking about this, that he was shuttling around as a stand-up comedian and doing all these kind of Californian gigs, and he was living in his car and had a suitcase in the back of his car, and he sat down and he wrote himself a post-dated check for $5 million.
Wow.
And, you know, the amazing thing was, when that date came up, he checked his bank account, and it was something like $5 million and $12 or something, you know, after he'd done this. And he literally just chose to choose that reality and say that I'm worth this money. Now, I'm not saying everyone can do what Jim Carrey did, but it's been my experience around this that works.
I'm going to quickly ask Claire to say a few words, because she's got to jump off in 3 minutes. But Claire can speak for herself.
Well, thank you, Emma. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm not quite sure what to say other than, Johnny, actually, maybe we all can actually do it. Johnny Depp can do it.
Yeah.
We can. I've had a few experiences that have been really interesting of doing that, following a bit of following Sarah's book, or the law of attraction, and just putting it out there of wanting something and it turning up. There's a few of us here who got together this morning and talked about a happening jar, and the idea of putting our wishes into writing down what it is we want, and just putting it out there, and then trusting it, and not needling it, and not worrying it, and not kind of trying to make it happen, but just put it out and then relax and see what happens. And then something else that occurred to me, I think, Peter, you in your meditation, you mentioned Irish leprechauns. Now you can probably hear. I'm one of them myself, and I have a feeling game that you might be one. And yeah, and I'm
born in Australia, but I am one.
Yeah, and I can imagine that your script might be very similar to mine. And I was thinking about this idea of healing and why we don't charge for healing. I'm an accountant, so and I don't even charge for that sometimes, but I have done Bowen technique and a few things, and it is hard to charge. And I wonder if it's because we don't feel like we are in, almost like that comes through us, and so it's something that it comes through, and we should give it because we haven't created it as something. It's a gift. And I just wonder if there's some mindset that needs unpacking, that if something hasn't been hard, we think we can't charge for it or something. And so I'm going to go off and unpack that for myself.
So can I just throw something in there, please, Claire? That story that money has to be hard, or it has to be a struggle. Like I had that script, that was my family of origin script. And I'm not saying I'm in mastery of this, because I still have sometimes bad days, but I chose to create the belief that money is easy. And what I actually learnt was money is simple, and that there's a distinction between simple and easy. But in the charging for healing gig, you know, first 2 years of my healing career, I earned the grand sum of $3,000. I was doing other things to keep my ship afloat from the healing. And I'm at the point today where if I choose to actually have a client in healing, it's $250 for the hour. And if I'm only there for half an hour, it's still $250. I choose to give it away a lot. And I have people who can only pay 25 or whatever, and I'm happy with that. And I shared it with Johnny and Shine, I actually write an invoice to the universe afterwards. And I say, dear universe, here's an invoice for, I got 25, it's worth 250. Here's an invoice for $225. Please take care of it. And somehow, somewhere, $225 comes into my life. Maybe that day, maybe in a week, who knows? I'm relaxed about it. But I use that as a mindset just to get my brain past my own BS. And BS in this situation stands for belief system. I had a belief system that it was a struggle. I chose to create it with a belief system that money is abundant and easy and graceful. And that was just a mind tool that I used to get past that. And I still do it to get past it. So, and here's the other thing that I have a mentor, and he's a multi-millionaire, and he's one of the happiest guys I know. He's 87 years old. And he said to me 40-something years ago, your clients that you make the most profit from love you the most and you love them the most. The clients that you make the least profit from, that cause you all the headaches, love you the least and you love them the least. And then he said, only work with the people you can love the most. Good advice. I'm not saying not to be generous. Be generous. But be generous from a space of love and generosity, not from fear and, I can't ask for it. Yeah. If I'm working with you and all you can afford is $1, hey, I'll do it for $1, Claire. I love you. Let's do it. Do it from a space of generosity. Let the love flow. But that doesn't mean that my relationship with money, that I put an invoice, dear universe, $259. Thank you very much.
I'm going to embrace that. Thank you.
Oh.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Johnny. Thank you, Peter, and everybody.
You're welcome.
You have to excuse me. I have to bail out.
Sure. Thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you, Claire.
Oh, well, thank you. Bye.
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 So would anybody else like to share at all, or did you want to? Anybody got anything burning, heart beating fast?
I have a question for Peter. I was going to ask, but I'm getting the feeling that you actually do write that invoice to the universe, and you make it a point to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you feel when you do that? I mean, in the beginning, did you have to?
When I first did it, I threw up, literally.
Wow.
The first time I did it, I literally ran to the toilet and threw up because I was
Why?
befuddled at my stupidity and my audacity to put an invoice to the universe.
So
it was not comfortable day one. I did it because it was uncomfortable and I had to get past my own BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just something that came to me that went, if you stay stuck with this is insane. And this is the reality of it. I'd come from a situation where I'd be writing in the business world, I'd be writing invoices all day for 5,000 or 10,000, and I'd do that 10 or 12 times a day.
Got it.
And then I went to doing this healing that I had a gift for, but I trained, I worked, I had my own journey on. And when I felt that God had said, Peter, you're meant to be a healer, go and do this. And I went, wasn't in the plans? Like literally. And I went, oh, well, I naively assumed that I would continue earning what I was earning in the business world as a healer. And I went from being, living in a penthouse to not paying the rent. That was the experience. But it was my own journey around all of this trouble of, oh, it's healing. I've got to give it away. It's a gift. It's a gift. Well, yes, it is a gift, but the gift the training I did cost me $75,000 a year by the time I paid for airfares, travel, accommodation, the training to bring out that gift. Healing is one of the most valuable services today on the planet.
Yeah.
The world is transitioning from a system that's created degradation, destruction, and separation, and it's transitioning to potentially a new earth where love rules.
I guess
But the people doing the healing are doing that, the coalface work. They need to have a good life while they're doing it. They need to pay their bills. They need to be stress-free about money.
Yeah.
And, you know, that doesn't mean that all of your customers as a healer can pay you what you're worth. What it means is that you have a belief that you'll be willing to receive in a relaxed way what you decide to be worth. I said it to Shine, double your invoice every 3 months. Like if you start at $10, double it to, well, if you're starting at $10, double it every week. Start at 10, go to 20, go to 40, go to 100, you know, get to a level where, you know, it's okay. Because a friend of mine actually took me at gospel value. She is an amazing healer. I am walking today because she's a healer, because I had a car accident 30 years ago and got a broken back and problems and challenges. And she did this amazing healing session on me. One of, you know, there was like 20 before it, and then this amazing one where it just healed. And I'm having a heart-to-heart with her one day afterwards, and I said, "How are you going?" And she said, "I'm really struggling. I'm tired of working like a dog just to pay the rent and just to keep food on the table." And I'm looking at her and I'm going, "You're doing all this amazing stuff every day. People's lives change because you're there." And she said, "I know." And I said, "Are you going to be a martyr about this? Or are you just going to say, you know what? It costs money to pay the rent, the petrol, the training, the this, the that. I choose to create a life where I have, pick whatever income level you want." And, you know, and I knew her numbers of clients she was seeing. I said, "Eleni, if you charged $120 per session and 50% of those paid the 100% of the price and 50% of them paid anything between $1 and the 50%, because that's the reality of it." She said, "Yeah." I said, "You'd be earning $2,000 a week." "I would." And I'm not going to say that it was easy for her, but it was simple. It was very, very simple. And in the space of, I can't remember, you know, it was maybe 3 months, that became the new normal. But for those 3 months, she had, oh my God, moments. But in answer to your question about the invoices, so I had the experience of choosing a very bad business partner in a business that I had. Now, I'm very grateful today for that experience, because from bad business partners, you learn what a good business partner is, and you heal within yourself as well. But that experience cost me somewhere in the order of $1 million in what I lost in that business. And my invoice to the universe, when I actually wrote the invoice, because it took me 2.5 years to actually take my own advice and write an invoice on that one to the universe to get past it. So it wasn't, you know, I'm a bit slow. I actually, you know, on a daily basis, I say, "Thank you, universe, for paying this much of that. There's still this much to go. Could you get your act together?" And I'm not being disrespectful to the universe. It's actually just a game to get me in the right relaxation, because I actually know the universe loves you unconditionally, loves me unconditionally, and that love is more powerful than fear. but I use that as a tool to get past my own fear. Because
that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to get at. Whether you were doing this to change your reality, because you're not waiting. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was wanting to know.
And it's actually interesting where you just talked about it's the universe. It's the universe that kind of pays the bills. And I think that's where, you know, I would say all these people on this call are quite conscious, and that's why we're here, because we're kind of expanding into this stuff beyond this. We're on this globe, and we've been operating a financial system that is just to do with this globe. When this Brenda Wilder book, she talked about when they first discovered gold and silver, they probably thought that they had a piece of the sun and the moon, and those were there. They prayed, you know, they honoured the celestial beings, bodies, and we've just made ourselves so small actually by just limiting it to the physical. And there's so much more. I mean, like you're saying, Peter, it's this unlimited potential that we have. Of course, the universe can pay you $1 million, no problem. And when we trust in that, and when that's where our energy goes, rather than limiting ourselves with, oh no.
Can I share something with what you just said there, Emma?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this experiment again right now in my life, and I'll come to it. But 25 years ago, 24 years ago, whatever it was, I actually sat down and said, right, I'm going to double my income. And when I achieved doubling my income, I said, I'm going to double my income again. And when I achieved that, I said, now I'm going to double it again. So I did it 3 times in 18 months. And the only hard part about that was me and my fears and doubts and headaches. Mm-hmm. When I actually got congruent with it, it was a walk in the park. Now, what I'm actually in the experiment of at the moment, I'm not actually doubling my income, I'm multiplying it. And I'm not trying to say you should do what I'm doing. This is just my journey with money. And because I have some really big things that I want to do. For example, I want to create an animal sanctuary. Well, to create an animal sanctuary, specifically dogs, big dogs, I love them. If they big and furry and ugly, I love them. And they slobber and they drool and they fart. I love them.
A lot of food.
Yeah, and they eat a lot of food. But when I actually sat down and worked out, okay, to set up an animal sanctuary and to do it properly, what do we need? Well, we need a property that's going to cost somewhere between $1 million and 1.5. We need staff that are going to cost somewhere between 250 and 400 a year, thousand. So you extrapolate that out. You go, someone's got to write a check for about 2 million in the first year, and that someone is probably going to be me, because I love to do that. It gets me juicy, the idea of having an animal sanctuary, that if I see an animal somewhere, or someone I know sees an animal somewhere that's misplaced or unloved or unwanted, or the people can't look after anymore, that it has a safe home and a good life. My partner and I have another thing where we want to feed some homeless people. We go and feed them meals occasionally, but we want to set up a place where they can go and get food, go and get shelter. It's a big check that has to be wrote to do that properly. So the capacity that you have with money, if you want to play small and just look after yourself, heal your relationship with money so that you're earning, I don't know, you're all in different countries, but let's just say it costs $100,000 or £100,000 or whatever it is where you live. Heal your relationship so you can earn 100,000 and live a good life and do what you do and do it well and love people and free people. But if you want to play a really big game, if you've got something on your heart, download for some of us, that's, a friend of mine, Eleni, that I mentioned, she goes to countries that I wouldn't go to without an army protecting me. And she goes into these countries to work with disabled children who are literally poor at a level in the third. These are third world countries. Her foundation to do this, I'm the chairman of a foundation, but her foundation, you know, the budget for that is $1 million a year by the time we pay therapists and pay this and pay that and pay whatever. And she's creating the $1 million to do that. Now, some of it at some point, some corporates will come in and support her, but she's got to get the wheels going. And usually if you've got a big dream, it takes you to be a bigger person. You can't play small. And healing your relationship for money, for me, just means I don't play small. Because left to my own devices, I'll play small. I'll let fear and doubt and hesitation stop me from playing big. And here's my experience of why I won't let that happen anymore. I had the experience of looking after my mother before she died. And she's wherever she is. And deathbed conversations are interesting conversations. So the last 2 days of her life, she was in and out of a coma. So that wasn't it. This was like maybe a week or 10 days or something before she passed away. And she actually said to me, Peter, please don't play small. I've played small my whole life. I've lived with fear. Peter, please don't play small. I'm not going to play small. That doesn't mean I'm going to have every day not going to be hard or stretched. What it actually means is I've got to grow more than I've ever grown. And getting your relationship with money that's why I'm here. It's because, to be honest, if all I wanted to do was just live a nice life, I can do that without breaking a sweat today. And I'm not saying that arrogantly, it's just how it is.
We need people to play big. I mean, I particularly, like you said, you were talking about your dogs and you said, I love it. And when something lights us up like that we love, I mean, that's a big part of Sarah's work, isn't it? Is relax, enjoy, love. And when something's coming from a loving place, and for me, a lot of money is really stuck in quite a hateful place, actually. There've been some really nasty organizations doing awful things to the planet, just to each other. And that comes from, you know, that's quite historic. It's probably over the last 4 or 5 centuries it's been particularly bad. But we've got an opportunity now. Something is really shifting on the planet. And this idea of sending money out into the world with love. If you employ somebody, then they can take care of their families. You know, there's a ripple of effect. And rather than be scared of it, stepping into it, like you say, and opening up and play. We need people. We need people to not be hiding it all away and going, oh, it's not for me. Because if good people have got the money, then the world has got to be a better place, surely.
Hey, money doesn't change us. It just makes you more of what you already are.
Yeah.
If you're a rat bag, you're going to be a bigger rat bag. If you're worse than a rat bag, you're going to be bigger at that. If you're good and generous, you're going to be good and generous. If you're loving, you're going to be more loving.
And it gives you the freedom to not be, like you were saying before about, you know, not being able to put dinner on the table. And Peter, would you like to play this Transformance, which is another?
I will do that. I'm going to bring the screen back because I've got to hit the share button.
While you do that, Sarah worked with a composer, and Sarah gets downloads and transmissions and I said to her, I went on a retreat with her, and I said, do you get out of the way of your downloads? And she said, no, Emma, I get right in the way of them. So she's channeling, and this Transformance, it's a transformative performance, and she created it with a composer called Gary Malkin, and they did it in the studio. There was no rehearsal, they just did it. They tweaked a few bits and pieces, but you can hear both of them were just on something bigger than them was coming through them. It's rather beautiful. So enjoy.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, we can. We can. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Why are you so afraid of me? Don't you realize how much of me there is for you? Don't you realize how freely I give myself to you in every moment? Don't you realize how connected we are, you and I? I want to ask you to open up your heart and to let me in, to let go of the fear and the worry and the endless feeling that there's never enough and there never will be. I want you to open up to me, to get to know me, to welcome me into your life. I want you to enjoy me. I want you to feel the freedom that I can give you. I want you to experience the creativity, the expansiveness, the pleasure, the joy that you can share when you allow yourself to experience me. Money, abundance, prosperity, generosity, I want you to allow yourself to come alive. So no more fear, no more keeping yourself small. Love money. Money loves you.
Every time I hear that, I'm grateful I hear it.
It is beautiful.
I'm happy to hang around and talk, but just in case anyone wants to go, Emma and Johnny are doing a study group soon. I just forget when you guys are starting, but it's a study group on the Thank You Money program. And it's a year-long program, although you can choose to do a 4-month version and then upgrade later if you wish to. They will send you all the information about it, a link, a little mini course that you can do that gets you started on it. If it resonates with you, I really do recommend you do it, but more than just doing it as a solo gig with you and your own time, I comprehensively recommend you get involved in the study group, because what the study group is, call it a mastermind, because there's a term a lot of people use, but it's the actual sense of it. It's a group of people coming together to expand your consciousness and expand your love and consciousness with your relationship with money over a period of time, meeting regularly. And there is a synergy that happens in a group that cannot happen as an individual. So that's about all I'm going to do as an advertisement at the moment. I'm happy to keep talking, and we can have a good chat. But if this resonates with you, I recommend you take action and join the Thank You Money program, and join Emma and Johnny's study group, and go change the world for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Our experience has been definitely working in groups is much more powerful. The things that you just, that get stuck in us are much easier to shift when we're in groups and partnerships, and it's just a much less lonely way of going about living. It's been hugely powerful for me. I started my my spiritual journey very, very alone. And I've just made more and more connections, and they're regular connections. And yeah, like Peter said, the regular is really good. So if ladies from the meetup group, if you wanted to, I think there was a link embedded, but just message us on the meetup group, and we can give us your email and whatever, and we will contact you directly. Looks like Aurélie is off. Bye, Aurélie.
Thank you, Aurélie.
Before we stop recording, I just want to. I'm not religious. I was brought up as a Catholic, and I actually had real contractions around it. Never liked the whole Catholic thing. Found it very dark, and wasn't for me. But doesn't mean it's not for some people. But I do have a deep spirituality, which as I've got older, I've allowed in. And this lovely lady, Brenda Wilder, who's not Sarah McCrum, but also wrote Money is Love. I've been doing this prayer. And prayer is a heavy old word. People are like, oh, but it's just, I suppose it's, what's that word? An invocation. So
an invoice to the universe.
Say again? An invoice
you could call it an invoice to the universe.
Yes, you could. An invocation kind of works. So it's just an invitation. So I'm just going to ask you all just to close your eyes and just really feel the power of the words that she speaks. Universal Divine Source, I take this time to open myself and my life to your abundance. The abundance that flows freely through this honourable universe. The abundance that is for the many, not just the few. The abundance that is our birthright as divine beings on the path towards enlightenment. Help us to learn that money is not separate from you but a part of you, as we are part of you and you are part of us. Help us to learn that money is an integral part of our spiritual lesson learning. Help us to learn that money is not ours to control. Teach us to begin to change our attitudes towards money. Teach us to see money as energy that can be transformed into love, so that every pound spent and sent out into the world flows on a current of love and light, so that every pound sent out into the world can touch another person with love. As we go forth every day, help us to open our hearts and our minds to the reality that we truly can change our concept of money from the negative ideas we've had about it into the concept that money is love. For this and all the abundance you bring into all of our lives each and every day, we are deeply grateful. So be it.
So be it.
So it is.
So I'm going to stop the recording now, and if anybody wants to hang around and have a chat with me or Peter or Johnny or all three of us together, then you sure can do that. So.